Hi guys, my name is Melina and I am the host of Unbreakable Latina. I started Unbreakable Latina about 9 months ago, so last year, October 2021. I could never relate to any other podcast that I would listen to. Either these people got famous over a reality TV show, or they were in radio and then they got into podcasting. And one day I went to a trip to San Diego, a girls trip with my friend Angela. And we were just talking about what we want to do with life and just different things. And I was like, I want to start a podcast, but you should start it with me. And she's like, why don't you just start it yourself? And then I was like, why don't I just start it myself? Because I always felt like, who's going to listen to somebody talk by themselves? And on my drive home, she was living in San Diego at the time. So I had a long drive back home and I kept thinking of her telling me, why don't you just start it? What's stopping you? And I would be like, oh, well, I don't have a laptop. The only thing stopping me from starting this podcast is myself and my fears. My fears were that no one was going to listen to my podcast, that I don't even know where to begin. So the reason I wanted to create this video is because this is the question I get asked the most. How do I start a podcast? Where do I start? So here it is. My sister and I one day just sat down and she was helping with my branding, so helping me with the logo, a name, colors, all that. And we kept on just brainstorming names. I knew that I wanted to be based on the fact that I am a Latina, so I wanted that name incorporated, but I wanted like a powerful name. And I just kept thinking of I just kept shooting names. Me and my sister were just sitting on the couch going back and forth, back and forth. And I was like, oh no, I don't like that. Or certain names that I would like, they were already taken by the website. So I made sure that I did a Google search. I searched a name and she came up with Unbreakable Latina. So I have to give my sister credit for that. As soon as she said it, I was like, that's a name. And it just made sense because I've been through a lot. So then we finally had a name. We ran the name all over Google, me and her. We made sure the domain was available, the Instagram was available, the TikTok was available, and it just all matched. So it was meant to be to have this name. Second, I started what am I going to talk about? So, the first thing that came to my head was my tragic dating life. So I'll talk about that. I'll talk about my toxic relationship that I was in. For me, the way that I come up with topics is just by going through my life. I'll have a conversation with somebody and then something just pops in my head. I write it down on my phone, even if it's just a word on my notes. That's how I think of topics to talk about. So what I use is my MacBook. That's where I do my recording. I edit. My microphone, this is the Yeti Nano. I'll link all the products below. And my headphones. You can also record from your phone if you don't want to invest in a computer. I know they're expensive and not everybody has the extra funds to do that. So on your phone, you can start recording on your phone. Just find a quiet place and record. So I usually record on Sundays and my podcast goes out on Mondays. I do that because I like to talk about what happened throughout my week. And also, I still work a full-time job, so it's easier for me to record, have it put that Sunday to go out on Monday. Most of my episodes have been solo, and I find that it's easier to do a podcast by yourself because when I do have guests, it takes me longer to edit. When I do my podcast solo, as I'm recording, I am editing and I am re-recording whatever I need to re-record. So I kind of edit as I go, which makes it so easy. When I've had guests, it's been a challenge to edit. Sometimes the audio is a little choppy because I am not a professional, but I try. I suggest that if you do have a guest, you record way before you need to edit your podcast. I use Riverside FM to record podcasts with guests. For example, I've had guests that I've never met, that I met through the internet. So we set up a Riverside FM studio hour and you could record through video. So it's like a FaceTime and it's recording both audios. It's also recording video. So if you want to put that on video, you can do that as well. and it's easy to use. You download your MP3s and then you edit on GarageBand or whatever software you use. Publish a podcast, there's a lot of different platforms. I chose Anchor FM because it was the easiest for me. It was free. You can also record your podcast there and you can edit it there as well. I personally like to edit on GarageBand, but if you don't have access to GarageBand, you're doing it on your phone, you can use Anchor. Anchor is easy. I'll link that below as well. On Anchor, it will publish your podcast to different platforms. And I can make another whole video about how to do all that, like how to get your Anchor account started. But it's pretty self-explanatory. If you need help, let me know in the comments below. Anchor distributes your podcast to Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and many others. And sometimes you have to go to the other podcast platforms to upload your podcast into that. And I upload on Sunday, and then it says to publish at 3 a.m. on Monday morning. And I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so where I record. This is my recording studio. My bedroom is my recording studio. I don't have a fancy studio, so don't feel like you need a fancy studio. I will have one soon, hopefully. I am manifesting that in the future. I want to have a studio where I actually go record, because sometimes, like, I live in a farm area, so the roosters will be singing, or like the helicopters going by, and it's really loud, and my room is not soundproof. So sometimes I have to re-record things because the noise is outside. As far as how I promoted my podcast. So in the beginning, I didn't think anyone was gonna listen to my podcast. I thought maybe my mom, my brother, my sister, my aunt, my uncle, and my 5 friends. To my surprise, not my surprise, it was actually work. So my sister kept telling me, get on TikTok and start making videos about the podcast and relatable. And to be honest, this is really out of my comfort zone. I'm used to being behind the mic. I'm not used to being in front of the camera. Like I started making TikToks and I was very nervous in the beginning. And I didn't think anyone was gonna listen to me or watch my content or anything. I didn't imagine it. So little by little, you know, I was on TikTok all the time. So why not start uploading? I started seeing how people would gain a following. Social media is where it's at. That's how I promoted my podcast. I started filming on TikTok. I started creating on Instagram. I just started seeing what worked, what didn't. Like, if I go back to my first videos, they're super cringy because I looked nervous. You could tell that I was uncomfortable. And little by little, it started gaining traction. One of my videos went viral. I gained a following, and they started going to my Instagram. They started listening to my podcast. People started sharing it. I kept creating content. I kept just using trending sounds and going over the topics that I would go to. I'd get in front of the camera. I'd go on my stories on Instagram. So I just stay really active on social media, and that's how my podcast has grown. I recently, if I could check my numbers right now, let me tell you. So I started my podcast back in October 2021. Right now, today is July 8th, and I'm logging in to Anchor to see how many listens I have. As of right now, I have 124,000 plays on my podcast. On average, I have an audience of 2,563 people. In the last 7 days, 4,325 people have played an episode of my podcast. So that is amazing, and I am grateful, but also I am proud of myself because I put a lot of time and effort into this. My mind is always going a million miles per hour. I'm always thinking of what I'm gonna do next. I see something. I have TikTok brain now, so anytime I see something, I'm like, that'd be funny to record, or anything related to my content. So on my podcast, I cover the struggles of being a first-generation Latina. I talk about my college experience, my dating experience, being in a toxic relationship, having no relationship with my father, breaking generational curses, and everything in between. Literally talk about anything. In the beginning, I was very nervous. My first episode, everybody was stunned. The people were too stunned to speak because they didn't realize how open I was going to be on it. I didn't realize how open I was going to be on it. I'm honestly my biggest tip for you if you want to start a podcast is to start. because you don't know what's gonna happen. I did not imagine that it was gonna gain a following like this. I didn't imagine that so many people could relate to my experiences. I didn't even think that I was gonna hit all these milestones. I just reached 10,000 followers on Instagram. I reached 19,000 followers on TikTok. And all that is not by luck. It really isn't. I really work very hard every single day. I still work a full-time job, 40 hours. So on my breaks, on my walks into work, my walks out from work, any chance I have, I am creating something. Anything I see, that's how your brain starts working. In the beginning, it's gonna feel like, oh my God, this is a lot. But just stay consistent, believe in yourself, and also don't care about what anyone thinks. This is your podcast. Who cares what people have to say? People are always gonna have some shit to say. Do not fake being someone that you're not. Be authentic. That's all I've been on my podcast. I've been real, I've been authentic. I haven't faked anything that I go through. Everything I talk about is real life shit. And also, don't listen to the outside noise. This is your podcast. You decide what you want to do with it. People are always going to have something to say. And it's always the people that don't have anything going on in their lives that have the most to say. And remember that if it doesn't scare you, it doesn't change you. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, I hope I covered most of your questions. Let me know in the comments what you guys want me to record next. If you need more help, I'm gonna try to keep creating these YouTube videos. Like I said, this is totally out of my comfort zone, but I hope this helps at least one person. Don't forget to like the video below, subscribe to my YouTube channel, go to Instagram and TikTok and follow me there at Unbreakable Latina, and most importantly, go listen to my podcast.